Picture the scene. I'm sat in my living room, I'm scrolling through YouTube, and I see a video. CEX closing down? Now these type of videos are always a bit of a clickbait kind of situation where you kind of know that CEX are not closing down, and then you'll have the people who are like, hang on a minute, what? They're closing? I need to find out the information. Are they going out of business? I'm screwed. I've got vouchers. I need to use them. And normally I will scroll past these videos. I'm not really that bothered, but for some reason I was compelled to click it, which is probably a testament to the title and the thumbnail. And I'll share the video with you in just a second. So as I'm watching the video, it is kind of what I expected it to be. Hypothetically, what happens if CEX go out of business tomorrow? So I'm watching it and I'm enjoying it for what it is, and I hear my name once, twice, 3 times. And that kind of made me think, well, should I do some sort of response video to this in a way? This is what used to happen on YouTube. Someone would make a video and then other people would do response videos. And there was actually a feature on YouTube to submit your video as a response to the master video, if you will. We don't really have that anymore, but this is kind of a response in a way, in my opinion, on the situation. The video in question was uploaded by Wayne's World of Gaming. His channel is linked in the description if you want to go check him out. He collects all things PlayStation. He's kind of the opposite to me. I do collect PlayStation, but I'm mainly sort of 360 Mega Drive here. He collects all things PlayStation. He'll go around and show you his game hunting and all of his pickups, and he has far more pickups than I have. So if you are interested in going through more games than I go through on my channel, feel free to check his out. Like I said, his link is in the description. But in that video, as I said, I was mentioned a few times. Now, nothing malicious, it wasn't anything negative whatsoever, but the main point was, if you type CEX into YouTube, I'm one of the most predominant faces there. And it's because I use CEX in my content a lot. Now, it's not really by accident that I do that, and I have my reasons for it. One of the biggest reasons is because it's the only video game retailer on the high street, and me just showing you my pickups that I got on eBay and Vinted would get boring pretty quick. So to spice things up, I like to go around CEX because I like to be able to show you video games on shelves. The price changes, the state of the shop sometimes we talk about. You get that nostalgia of being able to walk around a video game store, and as Game are doing what Game are doing right now, CEX are one of, if not the only place I can go to get that sort of fix. The main talking point of the video was what happens if CEX go out of business tomorrow. And I think that the main point was missed by a lot of people, because when I was going through the comment section, fully expecting to see people slagging me off, and thankfully not one single person mentioned me, so I was very, very grateful for that. However, a lot of people in the comments were sort of misinterpreting the video. I think a lot of people were saying it won't go out of business because he wasn't actually implying that there is a chance they're going to go out of business. I mean, they make money hand over fist. We all know this. They're not going to go out of business, and that wasn't the point of the video, and that wasn't the question. It was a complete hypothetical. What would happen if we woke up tomorrow and Keir Starmer decided to ban everything red because he wanted the Labour Party to be the predominant red colour in the world? So CEX is gone. You can't change your colour. You're red. You're gone. What would happen? How would it affect you? How would it affect me? How would it affect content creation? So the suggestion was that I would be screwed because my channel is based around CEX. And to a certain extent, yeah, maybe, but it's pretty easy to switch up your content. I've done it many a time on this channel. I used to be strictly FIFA for many a year, and then I switched into video game collecting, and then I sort of honed in on CEX. So it would be quite easy in a way to transition away from that. But the point remains, it would be a sort of lesser avenue that I could go down. I wouldn't be able to go to a physical bricks and mortar store and have a look at their video games. I'd have to adapt and maybe go to just charity shops or car boot sales, Facebook pickups, Vinted, eBay and such. How would it affect me? Well, it would affect me greatly, I feel. Not only from a content creation point of view, but just that feeling of being able to go, should I go to CEX today and have a little look around? You can look on the website, and I do find the website very, very handy if you're bored and you just want to have a look to see what was traded into your local that day. I do that quite often, but I like to leave it a couple of days before I look, and then rather than go on the website and just ruin it all, I like to go into store and have a little look around. You'll find steelbooks that aren't obviously advertised on the website, and because I haven't looked in a few days, there may be some things that I'm not expecting to see, and I enjoy that aspect of it. And as for me personally, in the area that I live in, I would have to drive very far to find an independent video game store. And a lot of people will say, well, you need to support the smaller stores. These independent video game stores won't be around forever, and once they close down, they're gone. They're not really going to pop back up again because they're independent. And if they go out of business, it's going to take a lot of effort for them to build back the money to try again. Whereas CEX, if they have to close the store down tomorrow for whatever reason, chances are another one will replace it. And that is true. If I had an independent video game store in my town, I'd be in there all the time. And it's true, you do miss them when they're gone, and you don't necessarily appreciate them when they're there. So is that a case with CEX as well? In my opinion, and we have discussed this on the channel at length in the past, I don't know whether I made a dedicated video about it or whether I talked about it in some sort of longer form video, but ultimately, yeah, I think if CEX were to close tomorrow, 90% of the people who buy and collect video games would be upset about it, and it would affect us. Whether it affects you directly or indirectly, I think it would have an impact in some way or another. And I know that there's a small minority of people who hate CEX, and you have your reasons behind it, and I'm sure they're valid. One of the big reasons, of course, is the whole PS5 shortage scenario. And this kind of left a sour taste in my mouth as well, of course, because CEX were charging double, or more than in some cases, of what a PS5 should actually sell for. And of course, they were offering more than retail value for people who wanted to sell them, because they wanted to encourage people to sell them so that they had stock. And that, in my opinion, is and was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. They should have offered slightly less than retail, so no one really wanted to buy them, to flip them to straight to CEX. I'm all for reselling and flipping and making money, and I do like a little bit of retail arbitrage. So walking into a shop, seeing something that you think is undervalued, buying a few of them, and then sticking them on eBay and making money on them. I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with people buying things that are rare. So, for example, PlayStation 5 consoles. In the height of the scarcity, people were scalping these things from people who were looking to buy them as Christmas presents, or kids who'd save up money to buy them, or just you and I who had saved up to buy one. You wanted that new console, you wanted to play the new games, just couldn't get your hands on them. And then you have these scalpers coming in, buying them, flipping them on and making a profit, and then CEX making double what they're worth, and you can't get one despite the fact that you have enough money to buy one retail. I didn't agree with that at all, and I do know there are people who were turned off by that and won't go back into CEX for that reason. Some people were burnt many years ago when they used to reprint covers without saying that they were reprinted covers. And of course there are a whole host of other reasons why you may not want to go there, and that's absolutely fine. One of the topics raised in the video was how would it affect prices, because the suggestion was that CEX dictate the market here in the UK, and I would agree with that 99% of the time. And again, there's going to be people in the comments, I'm sure, who disagree and who think that there are content creators such as Metal Jesus, for example, who will dictate the market. If that guy comes out and says this game is going to go out of stock everywhere in the next 6 months, it's going to go up in price, it's rare, blah blah blah, pick it up now, and everyone will rush to buy it, the price goes up, etc. And whereas I do agree with that to a certain extent, that can happen, I do feel like the US market is completely different to the UK market. There are games over here that are worth a fortune that are pennies in the US, and vice versa. And one of those was Pokemon Box on the GameCube. In fact, it was cheaper for people in the US to buy a PAL GameCube console and a copy of Pokemon Box than it was to buy just a US NTSC copy of Pokemon Box. And I don't know what the price is these days, but that was about a year or two ago. Mario and Sonic at the Rio Olympic Games, I think, was another one of those games that were worth like between 50 and 70 quid in the US. Over here, I don't know, 6-7 quid. I found one actually in CEX in Newport, an NTSC copy, and ended up selling it for like 25-30 quid, or maybe more, maybe it was 40. I sold it for a substantial amount. And you'll often see the price spike on eBay when CEX run out of stock of a certain game. So I do feel like CEX have a massive part to play when it comes to dictating the price. For example, once more, when they introduced this whole with and without a manual thing for retro games, all of a sudden, prices of games with manual on eBay through the roof. And to be fair, you've always been able to command a little bit more money if you have a good condition Mega Drive game, for example, with the manual, mint condition, the label on the cartridge is good, the inlay is good. You can probably charge 10%, maybe even 15-20% in some cases more than CEX charge for it, because you don't know what you're getting with CEX. And some people can't be bothered for the roulette that you have to go through with CEX, because they don't really give you that description of a condition, because they don't know themselves until they ship it out, because every single one that they have is in completely different condition. And that is one of the gripes people will have with the company. We could sit here for hours saying what is right and what is wrong about CEX. For me personally, if they went out of business tomorrow, it would affect me greatly. There's only so much of me just showing you what I bought on eBay and Vinted you could watch before you got completely bored and had to click off. And the other part of it is I love walking around a brick and mortar store looking at video games. And as I've mentioned already in this video, I don't have a independent local video game store I can go and look around. I'd have to drive well over an hour to find one, and even then I don't know what state it's going to be and I don't know how big it's going to be. I don't know what the prices are going to be like. But with CEX, I kind of know what I'm getting. And my local CEX is quite a big one. It's spread across 2 floors and they have an awful lot of stuff to look through, and I can be in there for well over an hour looking at everything and not get bored, and I enjoy every single second of it. And that's kind of what I miss about hunting for video games. I used to love going around all of the small independent stores back in the day. Electronics Boutique as well. Game Station was there. Game, of course, popped up. There was about 3 or 4 different stores in my local town that had different stuff, different prices, owned by different people. Now I have CEX, and if they went away tomorrow, I'd have nothing. And then I would have to just buy my games on eBay and Vinted. And part of the big draw of collecting for me is finding things in the wild. I very rarely buy a game on Vinted or eBay and put it into my collection, because anyone can do that and I find it boring. So from a content creation point of view, it would affect me in the short term, but you know, I've adapted before. I went from FIFA to video game collecting, and I've bounced around a few areas of video game collecting before I've sort of honed in on what I'm now considered to be known for. But I could easily move away from it. So it wouldn't affect me too much in that sense. But in terms of just the collector in me, it would damage my relationship with collecting, I think. I don't think I would enjoy collecting as much as I do right now if I didn't have that store I could just visit frequently. And obviously, I'm not saying CEX are the be-all and end-all. They're not the only way to collect. And if they did disappear tomorrow, it wouldn't mean that my collection would just stop growing. I would find another way to do it. Maybe it wouldn't be as enjoyable, or I wouldn't add games as frequently as I do, but I would find a way around it. But it's just convenient for me personally to have them there. You know, they're a 15-minute walk away from my house. It's a sizable store. I like 99% of the staff, except that one guy. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think CEX disappearing tomorrow would have an impact on the way that you collect video games? Do the content creators you watch, aside from myself of course, go to CEX a lot and include them in their content? Do you think they would be affected? And of course, there are going to be a small minority of people who think that CEX going away would be a good thing. Prices on eBay would plummet, and maybe some independent video game stores would pop up more often because the competition is going to be far less. And I could see your side of it, and to be fair, I would arguably agree that if CEX disappeared tomorrow, there's a gap in the market. And I know that there could be one big company who decide to fill that gap. Maybe the Fraser Group decide to turn game into what CEX are currently. Would that be a bad thing, the way that game is run? Yes, it would. But if no one decided to fill that gap, maybe smaller independent video game retailers would pop up because they would get a much bigger slice of the pie. In fact, they would get the pie. And that, in my opinion, would be a good thing. But without CEX disappearing tomorrow, of course, everything is just speculation and conjecture, and we have absolutely no idea. But the one classic saying that I would always refer to is the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So despite the fact that you may not like CEX, if they were to disappear tomorrow and no one replaced them, I think that would be a pretty glum day for video games and collecting in general.